What's going on, guys? Sometimes you need to accept that a draw is the best that you can do. In this game that I'm about to show you, and I'm only going to show you the last few moves, we have this position. I'm playing with the black pieces. My opponent playing with white is a very strong opponent. He's rated above 2300. But in this game, he felt the need to continue to play and push for a win. And there were a lot of factors that were not in his favor going into this position. For starters, he has the bishop and I have the knight. And in this close structures, the knight is just the better piece. The other thing not going for my opponent is that he was running down on time a lot. At this moment in the game, he only had 18 seconds remaining. I had about a minute and 20 left on my clock. And I was about to offer him a draw, but at the same time, I understood, okay, I have one last trick in the position. Let me go for it and let's see what happens. And of course, my opponent fell for it, and that move is pawn to g5. And of course, I'm putting this king in check. Now, if my opponent in this position simply goes back to either one of these two squares, this game is a draw. There's going to be zero chance for me to make any progress here. And matter of fact, if I'm the one that begins to push thinking that, okay, I might be better because I have the knight, I can get in a lot of trouble. Because this bishop, in a lot of situations, can sacrifice itself with one of the pawns, and then my opponent can eventually get a pass pawn. But okay, that's for another day, that's another story. My opponent in this game made the crucial mistake. He went king to h5. And notice something now with this king. Obviously, it cannot take on g5, and it cannot go back to g4 to h4. Sorry. So this king, the escape square that this king had is no longer possible. Of course, I had anticipated this, and very quickly I played king to g7. And if you notice something here now, this king has no squares to move to. All I need to do is give a check to this king and I win the game by checkmate. Here, my opponent played a waiting move, bishop to c1, and I played very rapidly knight to f4. And of course, this is the blunder. The move that I needed to play, and it was a much quicker, cleaner way to win the game that I only saw at the end when I was analyzing this game, is king to h7, and now knight to g7 is checkmate. But I had calculated when I went into this line a certain position, and since I was playing blitz, I just went for it and I played knight to f4 check. My opponent has to recapture, there's no other move, and I took with the pawn. Now, the king is still stuck. This king cannot move. So the only thing that my opponent can do, he has two legal moves here. He can push this pawn forward, or he can push this pawn forward. If he pushes this one here on this side, I can just take and in a few moves get a queen, and then this queen will slide over to this square and it will be checkmate. So he cannot just do that. So my opponent went for the most tricky line, which was pawn to e5. I had already calculated this. My opponent took here and I played this move. Now, it doesn't matter how my opponent recaptures, I will create a pass pawn and win the game. For example, if he takes with the f pawn, then this pawn here is going to run down the board and the king is not going to be able to catch it. I'm going to get a queen, win the game very easily. If he captures with the other pawn, the same thing happens. This one runs down the board and I win the game. He cannot catch my pawn. So what did my opponent play in this position? Well, he took this one instead. Now, after king took, not pawn up, because if I do this, then the king can get in and actually get to the queen square. So the winning move here was pawn takes pawn, and in this position, my opponent resigned the game, and I was able to win this endgame practically by luck. But a win is a win, and sometimes you need to know when to just call it a draw and move on to the next game. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day.